My name is Robert with Jones Technical Institute in Jacksonville, Florida. Today we're going to take the oil pan off of this 6.0 from Internationalist from a 2003 Ford F-250. If you look on the board right here, we have several things that we're going to be doing. Today we're going to be looking at the cylinder bore taper for our. This is our specifications for the taper for the max, the outer roundness, the main bearings for oil clearance, rod bearing oil clearance. Here's our main torques right here. Here's the torque specifications for the crankshaft in play. Right here, torque specs for the rod caps as well. So throughout this video, you'll see a lot of cuts, but you'll see how we're going to take this off and how we're going to measure it to make sure it's within specifications. You can cut. Inside of here, these main rod caps inside here is what's called our main rod bearings. What we're going to be doing is we're going to take these off. We're going to check the clearance between the rod bearing itself and the crankshaft. Make sure we have the correct amount of space that we're supposed to per specifications. If it's too loose, then what happens, too much of a gap, then what's going to happen is we won't have enough oil pressure. If it's too tight, then we can cause undue wear and tear on the crankshaft and the bearing itself. So again, this is connector rod cap, it's a bearing cap, this is the bearing inside of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up real quick. Make sure that we have a nice clean surface here and a nice clean surface here. If you notice the oil here, this is where oil comes out, and what it does is it coats the crankshaft itself. The bearing sits on it like this, and it floats, and that's the reason why we have to check our clearances. If we had too much gap in it, we'd lose our oil pressure. If we have too tight of a gap, we're going to cause way too much undue wear and tear on the engine. So again, I'm just going to clean this up, prep this, and I'm going to use the plasti-gauge. So again, right here is what we have. It's called plasti-gauge. Okay, how we're going to do this is we're going to take the so you can see the name of it. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a small piece off of it, just a little. This, lay that across. What this is basically a piece of wax, and what's going to happen is as I tighten this down to the torque specifications, it's going to smash it, and then when it gets done smashing it, then I'll check it against the ruler on there, and it'll tell me exactly what my reading is. It'll tell me if I'm within specs or not. All I'm doing now is I'm just snugging this up. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just verify, because I already set this earlier, I just want to verify that I do have it on the right setting. It is at 33, and my specs to tighten this down is first one's 33 foot-pounds, second one's 50 foot-pounds. Okay, we are at 33. Loosen this up. Lock it down to 50. Now from here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these bolts, and then I'm going to look at the plastic gauge, and we're going to measure it up and see where it sits at. Alright, so as you can see, our plastic gauge has expanded. Again, that's from, give a decent shot of it. Again, that's a big smash. Now I'm going to take the built-on ruler, check it, and as you can see, it's right at the 0.0015. So we are 5 thousandths below our specs, but again, being a used engine at 0.5 thousandths, we're good. So it's within acceptance. We touched on this earlier about using the plastic gauge and how to check for the clearances for the main rod bearings, your connector rod bearings. Right now I'm going to show you how to check for durability and the taper for a cylinder wall. This is cylinder wall number 1. And what this engine's actually upside down. So this is actually the bottom of the cylinder, this is not the top. So oil pan goes here, obviously the oil pan goes underneath the vehicle. The top part of the cylinder is actually down here. So what we're going to do, 2 tools we're going to use what's called a snap gauge, a dial caliper. The snap gauge does, you place this inside of your cylinder, you turn the knob, the 2 ends pop out. Okay? Once the 2 ends pop out, you use your dial caliper to measure the distance between the 2. So, for example, if I put the gauge down here, try to go too fast, you will end up getting a messed up reading. So you got to go slow. If you go slow, you go smooth, you'll get an accurate reading. Okay. So my reading is 3.740. And what I've done for time purposes is I went ahead and pre-measured the bore. What we have here is a cylinder ovality and a cylinder taper. The top part of the cylinder, the bottom part of the cylinder, the top measured out at 3.738 at a 90-degree angle, 3.739. Bottom is 3.740 and again 3.740, so the bottom measured out. What we did here is at the Y and X axis 3.738, 3.739, subtract the 9 and the 8, we have 1,000. So our egg shape is 1,000ths of an inch. That's would be your out of round. Our max out of round from Ford says 2,000 of an inch, so we're within specs. The bore taper from from the top of the cylinder to the bottom of the cylinder is 3.738. The bottom is 3.740. It's 2,000ths of an inch. The cylinder bore taper is max is 3,000ths of an inch. So our bore taper is within specifications as well. So cylinder number 1 is in specifications. It is good to use. As we measure these down, we may find out later on that we may have a couple cylinders that are not in specs, which at that point in time you would have to, would it be more economically feasible to buy a new bottom end of a motor, or to go ahead and send it to a machine shop and get what's called honed out. The stock bore, which means brand new, coming right off of it, is 3.7401, 3.7402. Our bottom is within specifications as it would be for a stock bore. Okay, so we've reinstalled this bearing cap right here. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and finish these off. Now that I showed you how to do it correctly, I'm going to go ahead and get the measurements, and then from there I'm going to write them down, and we're going to go over what the findings are. So after we have completed the rod bearings and inspection and see what they're at, as you can see right here, they're in specifications. The only one that came in question is cylinder 3, cylinder 7. They're at 1.5 thousandths. The minimum clearance is 2,000ths to 3.5 thousandths. Again, being an older engine, there's could be a compilation of issues inside of it. 0.5 thousandths is not that crucial. Again, it could be a type, it could be debris on the connector rod side of the bearing. We're gonna have to extract that and clean everything up. But that's still within acceptable range. It will still operate and not cause damage. Again, my name is Robert. Thank you for watching my video.